Okay, now we're going to go over JavaScript more methodically from the beginning. We are going to be using JavaScript, the Definitive Guide, the O'Reilly book by David Flanagan, just as a kind of textbook. And it's going to take a couple months probably. I'm doing 2 lessons a week to get through the whole book, but it's going to be awesome, and we'll have a very thorough knowledge of JavaScript at the end. So the first couple chapters just kind of have a lot of random info about JavaScript. It gets less random as we go on in the next chapters. So, structure of JavaScript. JavaScript is case sensitive. If you have a variable like this, you need to keep typing it with the same capitalization throughout your program, or it'll think you have a different variable. JavaScript ignores line breaks. So if you have something, well, we could just say like, so if you, in general, you can put stuff on different lines and it's no big deal, but in general, you can add white space to your program and it's not a big deal. You can add line breaks, but you don't want to add white space in the middle of a line, because JavaScript lines end in semicolons, and if you have white space for, like, let's say you want to type this, but you have this, JavaScript just kind of like puts semicolons at the end of your lines. It just implies them. So if you have something like this, obviously it's going to put a semicolon at the end of return, and that'll be a very different statement than this. So just add semicolons at the end of your lines, and you won't have that problem. We've talked about comments, single line comments. Comments just get ignored. They're just notes for you or people reading your code. There are also multi-line comments. You can put them on single lines, or you can just do something like that. That's a multi-line comment. Data types and values. Data types has different primitive data types. JavaScript has different primitive data types. We've talked about this stuff, but now we're getting down into exactly what they are and aren't. Primitive data types: numbers, strings, and booleans. There are 2 trivial primitive data types: null and undefined. There's a composite data type called object. JavaScript has a few kinds of objects: regular objects, arrays, and functions. There are also special classes of objects like date, regex, and error. There are a couple of weird things about JavaScript. Check this out. So in JavaScript is loosely typed. You don't have to declare the type of variable you want, the data type of the variable you want. You just kind of declare it and go, and that's all good. But here's a weird thing with floating point or decimal data types. 0.1 plus 0.2 equals 0.3000004. That's kind of weird. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes that would affect what you're doing. I have a link in the post. There's a link to the post in the video description on how to get around that. It's a Stack Overflow thread. Okay, let's talk about not a number. Not a number is a weird JavaScript thing. So if we have a variable n, and then we say n plus 1, it's going to say that's not a number, NaN. So now when you see NaN, you know what it means. There is a special test because not a number does not equal itself. So you would have to do something like that to see if something is not a number. Let's talk about escape character inside a string. If you have a string, that's all well and good, but if you have a string with an apostrophe in it, you need to escape it, otherwise it's going to think that the string is ending at that second apostrophe. Let's talk about a string number conversion. So if you have a number, and you have a variable that's going to be a string, you can convert the number to a string by adding or concatenating it to a string. So this will end up equaling like one high, and that'll be a string, right? There are a couple other ways to do that. 3 ways. You can just add the number to a blank string. You can use this string function, and you can also use this toString method. Yeah, like that. Okay, that's good. This is just a short vid. That they'll get plenty more detailed in the next few ones.